Hello and welcome to Eurosport's coverage of the 1995 Tundra Raid, an international snowmobile race that took place in the northern part of Finland and through into Sweden, through Lapland. Well, here's a look at the general part of the world that the event was taking part in, starting off in Finland and going across the Arctic Circle into the northern part of that country and then across into Sweden. But the start of the event was in the Finnish city of Oulu. Well, for 3 years now, the Tundra Raid has started in this city of Oulu. A very beautiful city and an ideal place. For the starting off point, it was also the place where a unique record was set over the course of the week. The Bugatti EV110 setting a new speed record on the frozen lake at Oulu, a speed of 296 kilometers per hour. Well, the training that goes into an event like the Tundra Raid, also very, very important. And opportunities for some fun events as well before the raid itself got underway. The land of Sibelius providing the backdrop for this Tundra Raid with teams from all over Europe, but primarily from Sweden and Finland, competing on an extremely tough 2,500 kilometer raid across the very snowy, cold and sometimes bleak areas of countryside in northern Finland and northern Sweden. Ari Vartinen, a visitor to the event before it set off from Oulu. A great rally driver himself, not actually competing, and a few men from the world of motorsport not actually competing this year, although several have competed in the past, including the likes of Gildo Palanca, the man who was driving the Bugatti. Patrick Tombe was entered for the event as well, but in the event couldn't make it, and Martin Schanker, the rallycross driver. Well, a lot of different teams taking part, and a Eurosport team also competing in the event, and our opportunity to really get involved in one of the toughest events of this type that takes place anywhere in the world. Well, we're going to take a little look back over a couple of the previous events in the Tundra Raid. Here's first of all the map for the 1993 event. About the same distance, around just under 2,500 kilometers. And these pictures from the previous years give us some idea of what's in for the competitors in 1995. The winning team in 1993 was the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean team from Canada, taking the victory in 1994. Again, 2,500 kilometers and some pretty spectacular moments throughout the course of the race. Well, the winners in 1994, the Helkema team, and Helkema entering 3 teams in the 1995 event. Well, back to the 1995 event itself then, and a quick look at some of the snowmobiles competing. Most of the teams bringing along their own equipment and a variety of different types of machine, but all basically race snowmobiles, very, very fast indeed. Let's take a look at the map of the event for this year. 2,300 kilometers in all, with that start in Oulu. They're the starting list then, the teams taking part in this event. The Helkema team putting in 3 teams, 1 and 2 there you can see. The third one, and Team Eurosport running with number 9, and the Cryolab team, the French girls running at number 6. 3 French girls part of the Cryolab team, and none of them ever having competed on snowmobiles before. It was going to be a tough test in this event. It started off with a prologue, a fairly short section, just in and around Oulu, a chance for everybody to get used to the handling and performance of their snowmobiles. Of course, most of them used to snowmobiling all the way through the winter months in this part of the world. On the frozen lakes as well, which weren't always quite as frozen as people had hoped. We'll be right back after the break with a proper look at the snowmobiles and the start of the event proper.
Of the snowmobile race, Tundra. Karine Petrel, world champion in jet, uses everyday Krios products. Beauty that comes from the cold. Created using famous fresh Swiss cells, Krios products remarkably reduce the signs of aging and give you a great boost in energy. Krios, beauty that comes from the cold. If this product interests you, dial 331-4688-2525.
Combat Sport. Your regular roundup of what's new in the martial arts world. Every discipline, blow by blow, technique by technique, exploit by exploit. Go!
Combat Sport, Thursday at 8 p.m. on Eurosport.
Welcome back to the Tundra Raid here on Eurosport, and our German Eurosport commentator Ingolf Kartsberg guides us through it.
Okay, I guess many people haven't seen a snowmobile before. Just have a look about the little technical details. There's an expert with me who will show me how to start it, how to drive it, what about the security. So, can you just show the main things of a snowmobile?
Okay, here's a accelerator.
So I drive it only like that, not with a motorbike like that, just with my thumb.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's a brake.
Only one brake on the left-hand side?
Yeah, but this is what you call when you are parking. You can put this on.
Okay. Yes.
And here's key. Here's choke.
Yeah.
And this is very important when you follow on the snowmobile, when you drive. This pull off the engine stop.
Okay. So this is good for me. If I fall down, the engine stops immediately. Yeah. So we have here a race snowmobile. So it's about 600 cc, 115 PS. So it's very powerful, very fast. Can we have a look inside of the engine?
And here's what you call is clutch.
Yes.
And this one is rolling, and the power is going to this side.
This is the grip for the snow. And I've heard you can go with this snowmobile over open water.
Yes.
If you drive full speed, a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to have a tough race, so of course he has the helmet, a warm overall, a heater for the hands, a heater for the feet. And now I want to see if this one is going fast. Now we know how the engine is working, but how to find the way. We have a road book to find our way through the tundra. So there are all the starting times, that we know when to start and when we will finish. Then we have all the signs, like a bridge, open water. And here we have the kilometers and we have the signs where to go, straight or left or right. And this goes all this way. But of course, when you're driving fast in a race, you can use it this way. So we have something special right here in front. and we can move it this way and easily see where to go. Now we've won from these typical situations. Teams are very close together and the street is very narrow. It's a little street. So we try to go on the left, other teams can pass us on the right. But it's always a little bit dangerous because you never know if there are any rocks, any trees, if it's really a good street or if there are any bumps. We have some engine problems, that's the reason why we have to go slow. And of course we don't want to stop, because if we stop there's the danger that we get stuck. So we have to go slow and the others have to take a risk to pass us here on the street. One has made it already. There are 3 in a team, so the others have to follow, and let's see if they can make it. Okay, now we can go on normally.
Well, Ingolf certainly explaining how the snowmobiles work and giving us an opportunity to see how these teams operate. Teams of 3 all the way through the course of the event, and those 3 riders all having to stick together to try and help each other out of trouble. Just like the sort of trouble that the girls' team has got into here. Very, very difficult when you get into the soft snow. Even a snowmobile gets stuck sometimes. You can see as she tries to accelerate out, the rear track just digging itself further and further into the snow. And this when things can get very difficult indeed, trying to dig the snowmobile back onto a more solid surface and get it going once again. The 3 French girls, Karine Paturel, Karine Duret and Dani Laura as well. None of them with previous snowmobile experience, but all of them with lots of skiing experience and jet ski experience as well, and enjoying all of the time the challenge of this tundra raid. Just gives you some idea though how difficult the conditions can be in the soft snow. And when you're out there competing, you've got to find a way of digging yourself out of trouble. On to the start then. Returning to the race, and it's the middle of the second day, in fact. Rovaniemi is the place for the start of the first special stage. And we're going to take a look at the stage between Kemi and Sodankylä. 300.5 kilometers long, very, very long, and a very tough day indeed. Chance to refuel, and refueling halts all along the course of the raid itself. All of the stages starting out initially with a liaison run to get to that particular stage. Well, we asked him if it's the same parents for all these children. He said, yeah. So a very big family taking part. Well, off they go then, on to the next special stage. And the race is on against the clock and against each other. 3 members in each team, as you can see, and 1 member of the team having to tow along a sledge behind his snowmobile. That sledge contains vital first aid equipment, tow ropes, and other pieces of equipment that might be used throughout the course of the event. Well, the positions after the second day saw the competition very close up at the top. A little further down, the Team Eurosport with a very inexperienced crew, and the Criolab team, the French girls, having engine problems on the first day, running behind everyone else at the moment. On with the course of the next stage, Sodankylä, and back to Sodankylä, a 300-kilometer stage, and again a very difficult one indeed. The start of another day. The conditions not as cold as may have been expected, and in fact that was beginning to cause 1 or 2 little problems with the softer snow certainly dredging the power from the snowmobiles, and the teams were finding they were using a fair bit more fuel than they had previously planned for. Reaching the finish of that proper special stage, a little bit of a tricky finish as well, tucked around the corner, and that made life slightly interesting for some of the faster members coming up into the finish area. Team 7, the Monaco RC team, arriving back at the finish halt, but things getting a little bit tricky as the third member of the team piles in a little bit too fast. Most of these riders having a lot of experience of snowmobiling and competing in various events throughout the year, but this is certainly the longest and toughest of any of these sort of events that are held. Chance there to have a little look at the sledge. One of the refueling halts put on by the organisers at various spots, and the riders having to try and find those refueling halts from their road books. Not always that easy, not always easy to follow the route, and very accurate.
After 10 kilometers we lost 3 engines. All of our skidoos were broken, and that's why we got 3.5 hour penalty. But 2 days ago we think that we had to go on, and today morning we try to start, and we drive about 5 kilometers, and then we lost 2 engines more, and that was enough. We didn't have any more spare parts.
So sadness for the Helkema Team 2 out of the event.
Next year we come back.
Coming back next year. Now let's hope they have more luck that time. But still, the Helkema Teams 1 and 3 still going very well and looking to try and repeat the Helkema success of 1994. On to the second special. And it's Team 5, in fact, that are currently leading. The Team Brandt doing very well at this point. Helkema 1, the number 11 team, well, they're lying in second position. And the Helkema 3 team, number 13, are running in third place. Well, the track's very, very demanding and bumpy, really shaking the riders to pieces as they try and go with the best speed possible through the forest tracks. Every now and then, wooden poles with crosses on them, marking the route along the way, and those poles are marked on the road books as well, so they have some idea of where they're going. Crossing the rivers as well, where the water beginning to thaw, but if you attack them fast enough, then you can fly straight over the top. And the end of another special, the end of another hard and physically tough stage of the race. Well, they don't even just run during the day sections, they also run the snowmobiles at night as well. This is the beginning of the night stage, held on a river at Sodankila. Plenty of spectators turning up to watch as the competitors, lights ablaze, going on to this fairly short night stage. In some ways, with the extra contrast given by the light at night, sometimes it's actually easier to ride the snowmobile with a better indication of where the worst bumps are, whereas during the day those bumps can be well and truly hidden from view. We spoke to Karin Dure of the Creolab team. Well, she says we're not too worried about running in a night stage, but it's obviously a very slippery and very fast stage as well. Because we're running last on the tracks, because we're rather a long way down in the classification, it's even worse for us. The track is very bad by the time that we come along to take them, and the jumps are coming very, very quickly at us in the lights. So we really have to work hard to stay on the machines. Away they go, and the Team Creolab coming through to the finish of the night stage, making it through to the end safe and sound, and the completion of another day.
C'était complètement défoncé, parce qu'avec un reco, il n'y avait rien à voir, et là ils sont tous passés comme des dingues.
Well, it was a pretty tough stage once again. Some bits were really very crazy, very, very bumpy, and we were flying from one bump to another, huge bumps, big holes as well. We're really going very quick at some times, and it's very easy to go off into the soft snow on the outside of the track and get stuck. But we've made it through. We're still enjoying ourselves. We're having a great time. So the end of the night stage, the girls still making it through, even if they are towards the back of the field. We'll be back with more of the Tundra Raid right after the break here on Eurosport. Welcome back to the Tundra Raid here on Eurosport. One of the most difficult snowmobile races held throughout the winter months. And we're taking a long look at the second half of the event. Next part, next stage, from Sodankila to Levi, still in northern Finland. 275 kilometers, the distance this time, and that means around about 8 to 10 hours in the saddle riding these machines across some very, very difficult terrain. Bit of preparation going on before the start of the day's activities, setting up the road book in the rollers so they can make sure they know where they're going, getting ready for a tough day. Part of that mileage or kilometers is liaison, where they're riding from the from the overnight halt to the start of the first special stage, then attacking the special stage, and then more liaison section to another special stage later in the day. But those liaison sections also pretty tough, pretty difficult. There's no smooth, easy riding at any point during the event, and snowmobiles are banned from using the road, so all the time it's cross-country riding and very difficult. On to the start then, the starting list is there, and that's the actual order at this point in the race, with Helkema, one team, now in front of the team Brandt, Eurosport and Creolab, bringing up the rear of the event. But with both teams never having previous experience of snowmobiling, it's a good effort just to still be in the event at this point. The girls away, the number 6 team, trying to make up for some of the lost ground earlier in the race. Some difficult stages on this day on the approach towards Levi, and a real chance here to see just how bumpy and difficult the terrain is. Don't forget all of the riders competing on this, going through these sort of conditions for kilometre after kilometre, riding all day long to try and make it through to the finish in Levi. And this sort of punishing physical action going on all day long, certainly very wearing and very tough on all of the competitors. Another frozen river to cross, up the bank the other side and back into the forests. And those trees are never far away as they fight to keep the snowmobile under control. And sometimes you have to mind your feet when the sledge gets in the way. A little bit of jumping has to go on. A time for a rest halt and a chance to recover a little bit, take on board some refreshment and get ready for the next stage. The supply teams meeting up with the riders at various predetermined points along the route. And then the riders continuing cross-country to the next checkpoint. A chance to look at the sledge there with the various equipment inside, partly for safety and partly to help them get out of trouble should anything occur. Following up behind all of the teams, a rescue crew of 2 professional riders following behind to pick up the pieces should anything go wrong and to help those struggling at the back of the field. The teams continuing on through the forests, through the trees, gradually adding up the mileage and making it further towards Levi. Well, this was around the time that I joined the Eurosport team myself. Took part in just one day of the competition to have an experience of just how tough the Tundra raid was. And I can assure you that it was just as tough, if not tougher, than it looks from the pictures that we're showing you here. This is the Eurosport team being led by Ingolf, the man who was explaining the snowmobiles to us earlier, and the man who had certainly gone very well at that point. And being followed up by Roberto Vacci, one of the Swedish Eurosport commentators, also joining in halfway through the event, and the former semi-professional cyclist finding it also very difficult. But up front, in the battle for the overall positions, still the Finns and the Swedes were having a rare old race. Still the Helkema Lumamis, the Team 3, were right up near the front, whereas problems were affecting some of the other teams. The Team Brandt, who had been leading earlier, the number 5 team, well, they ended up having to tow one of their machines through to the finish and obviously lost a lot of time. into the night, and the opportunity to do some work on the machines at the end of a full and long day's competition. There's obviously quite a lot of preparation to be done to these racing snowmobiles. Several hours work normally required to check the machines over and get them in fine fettle for the following day. Of course, the slower teams only making it to the final checkpoints quite late on every day, by which time the leading teams probably showered and rested in the hotel already. It's a tough job for the riders and for the mechanics as well.
Now fixing the variator, cleaning and looking, it's okay. You have to check that these are okay, because if it's not okay, this rubber belt will go broken very fast. And you know, girls driving very fast, they need a good belt.
How long time it takes each night to take care of about 3 snowmobiles?
It depends a day, about 3 hours each night. That's about it. If it's not any big problems. But if there are big problems, can go whole night. Okay.
On to the next stage then, that between Levi and Pakala. 295 kilometers. With a very difficult latter part on the river between Moonjo and Pakala itself. This was the rest halt from the first liaison section to the beginning of the first stage of the day. By this time, the riders had already been riding for around 2.5 hours, and now they were to begin the special stage itself. The liaison section, not normally ridden flat out, but nonetheless a fairly high speed being entertained all the way to the start of the stage itself. The time over the stage is what counts to the overall time of the leaders of the event. Body belts going on, and with the shaking that goes on throughout the course of the special stages, that's a very important piece of equipment. Bit of refreshment, bit of energy, and the preparations being made before they go away.
Sitten tuon tien. Käännetään teille taas, mennään kelekkareittiä.
Well, the rest halt doesn't last for very long at all, especially for the slower teams. We arrived with around about 15 minutes break between arriving at the point for a bit of a rest and the start of the stage itself. Of course, the faster teams having a bit of a longer break. By the time they'd got there, they could sit around for a while, get their energy back, and then get ready to set off on the actual timed section. Start of the stage itself proving to be a little bit difficult to get through, but eventually everybody finding their way and getting on with the next bit. Another section, mainly through forest, with the odd crossing of a lake as well, but this section really all about the trees and all about the bumps. soft snow lining the edges of the track. And again, for the later teams such as ours, going through the forests, the track's already compressed and hardened by the progress of the leading 11 teams or so. So for the later teams, the track's becoming more and more difficult to contend with. Soft snow at the edges of the tracks, which meant if you hit a bump a little bit too wrong, the snowmobile would be flicked off the track and into the soft snow at the edge and basically just sink. So then you get into the difficulties of digging it back out just when you're tired already from riding the machine. If it then sinks into the soft snow, the attempt to dig it out can be enough to completely drain you of any energy. The top riders though, no such problems for them, keeping the machines moving, the momentum going and flying across these difficult sections. All three riders keeping together and being conscious of not losing one another. Very easy, of course, for the third member to get stuck. The other two continuing on, finding their own route, and then realizing that the third team member isn't with them. So constant checking going on all the time to make sure that the team is staying together. Snowmobiles not allowed on the roads. Once or twice they have to cross over the roads to carry on with the next section. But it's illegal to actually run one of these machines on a normal road. The second stage of the day proved to be even more difficult than the first. By this time, I have to admit, I was out of the action altogether, finished completely by the constant pounding and the physical effort of keeping the machines running. The second stage of the day proved to be an impassable stage for quite a few of the teams. It actually led towards a frozen lake, a huge frozen lake, which the idea was to cross over and continue through across the Swedish border and into Pajala. The conditions worsened, and with the higher temperatures than expected at this time of year, the ice on the lakes also not as strongly formed. It meant that several teams, around 4 or 5, got to a point on the lake where they really could not continue any further. One team indeed, all three team members getting onto their hands and knees to try and make a track that the snowmobiles could go along. Well, they managed to make some sort of a track and get themselves across the lake. But by the end of that, I can tell you those team members were very, very tired indeed. And one of them was really in quite some trouble that evening. Even the experienced riders and the top competitors were beginning to find the conditions almost impossible. More heavy snow, very, very soft and really difficult to try and make the machines carry on. This approaching one of the service halts, one of the refueling halts, and really just as well because quite a few of the teams were getting themselves into a lot of difficulty. Just look at the way that they're cutting their way through the snow, and look how deep it is when you get off the machine. I can tell you, when you're buried up to your waist in snow, it's pretty difficult pulling that snowmobile out and starting again. It might be funny for a few minutes, but after you've been riding for 8 or 9 hours already, it's the last thing that you need. And just when you think you found solid ground, it just seems to get worse and worse. Now and then, though, if you get the speed up, then you can keep it going. These machines capable of around 140 kilometers an hour, getting on for 80 miles an hour. And once you can get the momentum going and the speed built up, then it's amazing what that they can cross over, including some of the thawed water on the lakes as well. But once you get the thing stuck, that's when you're in trouble. Number 13, a team arriving in Pakala at the end of the day, and certainly going very well at this point. The Helkama Lumamies, the team that was part of the team that won the event the previous year, once again doing an excellent job. A spectacular sunset as the last few arrivals come to the finish at Pakala. There's the situation after 5 days in the event then, with the team Laponi now just taking the lead from the Lumamies, but Lumamies only 45 seconds behind. Team Eurosport and Creolab still bringing up the rear, but still in the event. We'll be back with the final stages just after the break.
Call the Eurosport hotline and you could be one of the 14 lucky winners of video cameras and Eurosport t-shirts. To take part in our great winter game, dial your corresponding number. Eurosport wishes you good luck.
You're never too old for a round of golf, especially if your name has gone down in the history books. The Masters from the past are in action once again on the United States Sea.
It continues into its final sections. Each day beginning or ending with a briefing for the next stage. Explanation of the road map, the road book, and any special announcements to make. Eurosports in golf going up to collect the road book for the following stage. Notes to be made, conversions from kilometers to miles to be made as well for some of the machines which have mileometer readings rather than reading kilometers on the distance charts. Distance points, very, very important. An accurate reading of the mileometer as they ride along, very important to try and find the correct checkpoints. The next stage between Pakala and Vitangi, not quite so long, just under 200 kilometers. The start at the river at Pakala, and the tired crews now fairly weary after quite a few days in the saddle. The stiff muscles and tired bones, just trying to loosen up a little bit before the event gets underway for another day. Team number 4 leading, that's the team Laponi, and second away. In second place, the team Helkama Lumamies, number 3. Third place at the moment, the number 11 team, the Helkama Lumamies number 1 team. And remember, their number 2 team out of the event fairly early on. Well, the other teams all getting away as well, and we took the opportunity to speak to the French girls once again about how things were going for them.
Ah non, l'étape hier, c'est pas qu'elle était dure, mais c'est qu'on est arrivé.
Well, the end yesterday was very, very tough. We were on the river, and it was just slush and water. There was no way we could continue anymore. There were several teams there. We had to turn back. We had to come back. It was impossible to continue any further. Well, the girls getting away and hoping for a better stage this time round. Still those tricky conditions, as you can see, soft snow in many, many places. And the team certainly running into trouble with the fuel consumption that was being made by the machines. This soft snow really dragging away the power from the engines, and a lot more fuel being used than had previously been expected. The scenery fairly unchanging. Some wider open spaces on the lakes, and then back into the forests once again as they continued on their way. This was the time when a change was made in the event itself. The number 4 team was struggling to find its way and lost some valuable seconds. The number 11 team, the Helcom and Lumimies, were going well though, well on the pace and pushing ahead very quickly indeed, and this is where they managed to take the lead of the race. Navigation proving to be the most important aspect between the top teams. Up to the next refueling halt once again, and the team's no doubt thankful that they've managed to find the next place to take on board fuel. One of the team members stopping off, no problem at all, but the other 2 riders had not stopped for fuel, and they were obliged to have to turn round and come back again to wait for their 3rd crew member. Well, they came back to make sure that they could get all 3 of them together, having lost their 3rd team member, and obviously they hadn't been checking enough to make sure that they were all together throughout the course of the event. Seemed to be causing a little bit of consternation. Well, finally, they managed to get themselves all back together, but the tracks and terrain were getting ever more difficult. The bumps were getting higher and harder, and the snow at the side of the tracks was getting softer and more easily able to disappear into the soft sand. Very difficult to follow the tracks indeed for everybody at this point, and with the navigation being difficult, different tracks from different teams meant that many of them were getting stuck in the softer snow. Still the top teams attacking hard though, and the difference in times up front, very, very small indeed. The top riders were putting on a great display of snowmobile riding at its best in some very difficult conditions, conditions that even some of the top riders were fighting with all the way through the day. The girls arriving at one of the checkpoints, and you can see just how difficult it's becoming. Nevertheless, there was always a smile on their faces,
C'était très très dur aujourd'hui.
and they were never giving up. She says, well, it was really, really hard today. We had a lot of water on the lakes, and there was a long time we couldn't get any further.
C'était l'horreur, on a perdu
We needed a lot of time to try and move the machines and try and get them going again. We lost around about 2 or 3 hours. Well, the team's okay. We're a very united team, and that's why we're doing well. That's why we're strong. We've got strong spirit, and we're carrying on. Well, it's a great adventure. We're going to try to get to the end just before we thought we were going to have to finish. But now we're here, we've got to get to the end. Maybe we're 4 hours late, but we really want to make it to the end.
You have to be really careful because a few groups have been lost here. Yeah. Yes. So be careful here.
Well, the girls winding themselves up again and setting off towards the finish. Other teams arriving at the final checkpoint in Vitangi. And although they didn't know it at that time, it was going to prove to be the final point of the rally. The conditions the following day were no better. In fact, if anything, they were even worse. There was the announcement from the weatherman that there was going to be a big storm ahead as well. And although they tried to fight their way through some of the next bit of terrain, it was just getting so difficult, it was impassable. Well, the official team trying to open the track for the rest of the competitors, just not able to get any further.
Any problems? It's too much snow. You can't drive. You only go down.
How many centimeters snow?
1.5 meters. Up to here.
So the decision made, unfortunately, that the raid would be over for 1995, and the results classified as they'd arrived in Vitangi. We spoke to some of the teams and riders about the situation.
Of course, we are a little bit disappointed, but our group is at the first time in this race, so maybe they are very tired now. Maybe boys like to stop here now.
Yesterday we was driving past 3 teams because they were stuck in snow. And I believe that if we have 2 days more, we should be in place 3 or 2.
So disappointment for some of the teams at the end, feeling that they could have continued a little bit further. But at the end of the day, the decision made for safety's sake to get everyone through to the finishing party at the end. So the winners in the end were the Helkema Lumimies, the #1 team, winning by 1 minute and 8 seconds after their excellent navigation on some of those final stages. Eurosport and Creolab teams both managing to finish, and certainly an excellent effort from both teams with very inexperienced riders and making it through to the finish. It had been a very tough event for all those competing, but congratulations to everyone who made it through. And no doubt in 1996 there'll be another difficult, challenging and demanding tundra raid.